Good morning, class 12th Commerce. This is your subject Economics. Chapter 2 5-Year Plans in India. Lecture number 2. In this lecture, we shall discuss about the success and failure of 5-year plans, features of economic planning, and before that, we'll discuss about long-term goals. So now let's begin. See, planning in India focuses on 5 long period goals, or you may say objectives. First is GDP growth. Increase in GDP implies increase in the level of output. It implies increase in the flow of goods and services in the economy. When the increase in the flow of goods and services is consistent over a long period of time, it is called economic growth. That's why we say that GDP growth leads to economic growth. Now, increase in GDP depends on 2 factors, right? First is increase in the resources of the country. Second is increase in the productivity through innovative technology. And what do you mean by productivity? Productivity is output per unit of input. So, GDP growth implies economic growth, and because of GDP growth, there is increase in the resources, there is increase in the productivity. Fine. So, planning in India is to ensure that natural resources are fully explored and production technologies are continuously improved. Second is full employment. Now, what is full employment? Full employment refers to the situation when all the people who are able to work and who are willing to work at the market wage rate are getting work. जो काम करना चाहते हैं और जो काम कर सकते हैं at the market wage rate उनको काम मिल रहा है, that is full employment. Fine. So if the people are fully employed, can we say social objective is achieved? Society at large is getting the benefit of planning. So, this objective of full employment focuses on inclusive growth. It implies that more and more people should participate in the process of growth, and benefit of growth must be shared among wider section of the society. So, can I say that this is growth with social justice? Is that clear or not? In our class 11th, we studied PPC curve, production possibility curve. So, if everybody will get the job, will be employed, economy will move near to the PPC curve. Right or wrong? So, first point of long-term growth, long-term goal, GDP growth. Second is full employment. Now let's move to the third point, equity. Or you can say equitable distribution. Economic growth would become meaningless if the benefits of growth accrue to only a handful of people in the society. If the benefit of growth does not reach to each and every individual, be it a rich or a poor person, it is useless. So, If there is equitable distribution of resources, benefits of growth are equally distributed, this is known as equitable distribution or equity. Fine. So benefits of growth must spread across all the section of the society so that distribution of incomes becomes equitable. And equitable distribution of income implies social equality. This is one of the principal objective or goals of planning in India, that the benefits of economic growth should be equally distributed. Then we have modernization. Now, what do you mean by modernization? Modernization means upgradation of the technology. It refers to the updation and adoption of modern technology in the process of growth. As we noticed earlier, output can be increased either by increasing the resources or by using innovative technology. Modern age, is the age of science, is the age of innovation. Now science offer us new ways of doing the things, such that productivity in the factories and the farms can be increased over time. Recently, IT industry is a sunrise industry. It is developing industry. Modernization in the context of goals of plans in India has a social angle as well. See, conventional wisdom, if I say conventional wisdom, that is wisdom without a valid reason, must give way to modern outlook. It includes issues like empowerment of women, so that they also participate in the process of growth. They also participate in the process of production. And they contribute to the process of economic and social prosperity. Another example I'll cite here, that green revolution in Indian agriculture is a well-known example how technology can bring revolutionary change in the output. Are you clear with equity and modernization? Now, fifth point is self-sufficiency. Now, what is self-sufficiency? Self-sufficiency means dependence on domestically produced goods. When your country is dependent on the domestic production of goods, especially food grains, then you can say that you are self-sufficient. But if your country needs to import the essential goods, then you are not self-sufficient. This goal was accorded a high priority during first 5-7 plans. The basic idea behind this plan was not to expose the Indian economy to political pressures from rest of the world, simply because we are dependent upon them for the supply of initial goods. In 1965, when USA threatened to stop export of food grains to India, if it did not stop, then war with Pakistan. India wanted to be self-sufficient in food grains production to avoid the uncertainty of supplies from rest of the world. You never know that when the country will stop exporting or what terms and conditions they apply. If they started applying those terms and conditions which our country could not fulfill, what will happen? So for certain uncertainties, country should have its own stock. Country should have its own supplies, its own buffer stock of essential items. Fine. Now it was necessary for developing country like India to achieve self-sufficiency in food grains. Otherwise, these countries like USA will impose heavy duties or heavy restrictions if India avoids to follow their rules. Fine. So this is the sole agenda or the high prioritized agenda during first 5-7 plans to be self-sufficient. If your country is self-sufficient, especially in food grains, so in case of in crisis, during the crisis or during war times, your country will be self-sufficient. There will be no need to borrow from other countries. So first long-term goal, what was that? GDP growth. Second, full employment. Third is equity or equitable distribution. Now there is a slight difference between equal distribution and equitable distribution, then modernization and self-sufficiency. Now let's move to the features of economic planning till 1991. Planning in India has witnessed a marked shift in the economy policy of the government in the year 1991. Accordingly, features of economic policies are often studied separately before 1991 and after 1991 period. Clear? Because in 1991, economic reforms were introduced. So, scenario got changed after 1991. So, we are studying the features of economic planning from 1951 to 1991. First point is heavy reliance on public sector. Economic policy before 1991 indicated heavy dependence on public sector. Therefore, in Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, 17 industries were reserved for public sector and 12 industries were reserved for private sector. The reason may be huge need of capital, and at that time private sector was not that much efficient to introduce capital in the economy. Fine. It was realized that objective of socialistic pattern of society could be achieved only through a comprehensive development of public sector enterprises. Second point is regulated development of private sector. According to Industrial Development and Regulation Act 1948. New industry in the private sector could not be established without a license and registration. To set up the industry in the private sector, the private entrepreneurs need to obtain license from the government. Fine. Similarly, Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969. It placed several restrictions on the expansion of existing industries. Clear? Then third point is protection of SSI. SSI stands for small scale industries. See, protection of small scale industries and regulation of large scale industries. Large scale industries, they were regulated through MRTP Act. MRTP Act stands for Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act. When was it introduced? It was introduced in 1969. Now, small scale industry, on the other hand, was offered protection from competition. Competition in certain areas of production. And there were certain areas of production which were exclusively reserved for SSIs. Besides, financial institutions were developed to help the small scale industries. Several boards like Handloom Board, Silk Board were established to promote the products of small scale industries in the global market. So, who regulated large scale industry? Which body regulated the large scale industry? Which institution regulated the large scale industries? MRTP Act. MRTP Act, Monopoly and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, 1969. Then development of heavy industry, fourth point. Now see, heavy industry, for example, electricity generation, engineering goods, iron and steel industry. And these industries were identified as industries of strategic significance. These industries were to developed on priority basis. Fifth point is focusing on saving and investment. Saving and investment were identified as the main source or key determinant of economic growth. High interest rate were offered to promote savings, while investment was induced through subsidies, capital grants. So, it was the motive of economic planning that we have to channelize these savings. We have to attract the investors. We want more investment in the industrial sector, in the agriculture sector. Fine. Protection from foreign competition. Domestic industry was protected from foreign competition. How? High import duties and quantitative restrictions were levied on imports. And to protect the domestic industries from the foreign competition, we introduced a policy known as import substitution policy. What was this policy? Import substitution. See, point number 7, focus on import substitution. That means whatever your country is importing, try to produce those goods within your country only. Why to import those goods? Produce in your country. So it implied domestic production of goods which were imported from abroad. What was the basic idea behind this? The basic idea was to save the foreign exchange, to become self-sufficient, to protect our domestic industries from the foreign competitions. And here is one question, that name some example of industries which are of strategic significance. Strategic significance, at most significance, जिसका बहुत ज़्यादा रोल है इकोनॉमी में. कौन सी वो इंडस्ट्रीज हैं? आयरन एंड स्टील इंडस्ट्री, इलेक्ट्रिक जनरेशन इंडस्ट्री, इंजीनियरिंग गुड्स, and they are also recognized as universal intermediaries. Are you getting this point? Why they are known as universal intermediaries? Because these industries supply essential ingredients for almost all heavy industries. अगर आयरन और स्टील ही नहीं बनेगा तो बेसलेस हो जाएगी ना आपकी इंडस्ट्रीज. तो सेटअप कहाँ करोगे इंडस्ट्रीज? देन 8th point, restriction on foreign capital. But this restriction was removed under LPG policy 1991. We'll discuss that further. See, restriction on foreign capital. Foreign direct investment, that means FDI, was controlled and regulated through Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, FERA, F-E-R-E, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. And now this FERA has been replaced by FEMA, F-E-M-A, Foreign Exchange Management Act. Loan from abroad was accorded high priority than FDI. This was to minimize the economic control of the domestic market by the foreign investor. Then we have centralized planning. Programs of growth and development at the state level were aligned to the centralized planning. This is the objective of growth as specified at the state level. Now we have discussed the features of economic planning. Now let's move to the success. We made 5-year plans, 12 5-year plans were made. Now what was the success of these plans, or what was the success of planning? See, first point is increase in national income. Increase in national income indicates economic growth. In this context, following observation need to be noted that during the period prior to planning, national income of India increased at the rate of just 0.5% per annum. Indian economy was therefore a stagnant economy. Increase in national income during the first plan was 4.6% per annum against the target of 2.1% per annum. Then we have a rise in saving and investment. We did rising national income. This is same as rise in per capita income. Then rise in savings and investment. During the 5-year plans, there has been considerable increase in the savings and investment. If we talk about the data between 1950 to 51, rate of saving was 9.5% of the national income. It increased to 31.3% by the end of 11th plan and was estimated to be 32.3% in 2015-16. Then institutional, fourth point, institutional and technical change in the agriculture. 5-year plans have contributed to the development of agriculture in two ways: through land reforms, through the improvement in technology. Land reforms include abolition of intermediaries between the government and the tiller of the soil, modernization and regulation of rents, ceiling on land holding, and redistribution of land, optimizing holding size through consolidation of holding. Because of these changes, there has been a significant improvement in the environment for farming. Improvement in technology, particularly HYV seeds, led to the revolutionary rise in the agriculture output and productivity. Self-sufficiency in food grains was the hallmark of this change. There was a rise in investment from 9.3% of GDP in 1951 to 33.3% in 2015-16. And fifth point is growth and diversification. Sixth is economic and social infrastructure. Growth and diversification of the industries. See, 5-year plans gave a big push to the basic and capital goods industry, iron and steel industry, machinery, chemical fertilizers. So during the planning period, there was 7% rise in the industrial production. Consumer goods also shown an achievement in the level of self-sufficiency. Indian economy is now ranked as the 10th largest industrial economy in the world. Then economic and social infrastructure. Economic infrastructure means transport, communication, irrigation, power generation, banking, insurance. Social infrastructure, schools, hospitals, means healthcare facilities, education facilities. So there was an improvement in the economic infrastructure, more power generation facilities. Indian Railway has become one of the world's largest railway networks. Revolutionary growth in the IT sector. These are what? Development in the economic infrastructure. How the social infrastructure has developed over time. See, health and education facilities are the key parameters of social infrastructure. Death rate has decreased. Fine. average life expectancy has risen from 32 years in 1951 to 68 years in 2015. So लोग अब ज़्यादा टाइम तक जिंदा रह पा रहे हैं because of their better facilities, because of better healthcare facilities. Death rate has reduced to 6.4% 4 per thousand in 2016 from 27 per thousand in 1959. 1959 में 27 per thousand, 27 per thousand, but in 2016 it is 6.4 per thousand. Can you see the difference? So first success of economic planning, increase in national income. Then second, increase in per capita income. Third, rise in savings and investment. Fourth, institutional and technical changes in the agriculture. Fifth, growth and diversification of industries. Sixth, economic and social infrastructure. Now let's move to the seventh point, that is employment. Serious efforts have been made during plans to increase employment opportunities. Different 5-year plans, government has launched several employment schemes. During 11th plan, unemployment rate came down from 8.3% in 2004-5 to 5.6% in 2011-12. So approx 3% employment rate has gone down. Then international trade. During plans, volume and value of India's foreign trade has increased substantially. Composition of export and imports has changed. Prior to planning, we were exporting primary products and importing finished goods, but now the pattern is gradually reversing. Change in the composition is significantly marked in the areas of exports. We are now exporting engineering goods, finished goods. This is a sign of India emerging as an industrial nation. Now, what are the failures? We have done the features, we have done the success. Now, let's move to the failures of planning. Abject poverty. Poverty, if you look at the present scenario, it is not removed. It is not, taken care. Elevation of poverty was the central theme of planning, but 50% of the world's population of poor lives in India. 21.9% of our population is below the poverty line. And these are those people who are not even getting the essentials of life. Food, shelter, clothing. So there is abject poverty. Then high rate of inflation. We have failed to tackle the inflationary spiral. Because of high rate of inflation, real income of the people tended to erode. Economic divide, that means difference between rich and poor, has risen over time. First plan is the only exception when the price level slided down. In all other plans, prices recorded a steep rise. Then unemployment crisis. While more and more opportunities of employment have been generated, challenges of unemployment has not been subsidized. At the end of first plan, 53 lakh persons were unemployed. This rose to 4 crores at the end of 11th plan. That means there is an emerging serious cause of social unrest, threatening the process of growth. Then fourth point is inadequate infrastructure. Development of infrastructure like roads, dams, bridges, schools, colleges, hospitals continues to be inadequate despite 67 years of planning. Actual growth has failed to match the targets. Particularly, shortage of power has been a serious constraint in the overall process of growth and development. You can really imagine that in the backward areas, and especially backward areas of Bihar, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, there is not proper supply of electricity. Hardly they get 4 to 5 hours of electricity in a day. So, and condition of roads during rainy season, you can see in your local areas too. Is that well developed? No. So, there is still inadequate infrastructure. Then fifth point is skewed distribution. Skewed distribution means unequal distribution. Economic and social equality was considered as the principal goal of planning. Ironically, this has been the principal failure of planning. It was our principal objective, but this is the principal failure. Widening economic and social inequality has forced the government to offer reservation in jobs to the economically and socially weaker section of the society. But this is not the good step. आप अगर बैकवर्ड सेक्शन को, SC/STs को जॉब्स में, एजुकेशन में रिजर्वेशन देते हो, दिस इज नॉट द जस्टिफाइड behavior with the educated and hard-working students. Because of your failure, those hard-working students has to suffer. So this is not the right approach to solve the problem of skewed distribution. So, as observed by the expert team of UNO, implementation and enforcement have been the principal shortcoming of planning in India. Why our plans did not achieve that economic growth? It's because of poor implementation and poor enforcement. Plans are formulated after a good deal of deliberations, but targets are not achieved due to inefficient administration, and that this inefficient administration will go long and long. So here we complete our chapter number 2, 5-year plans in India.